So after Carl Jobs' last video on the Completionist situation, and Twitter having a chance to react to that, I figured that would be it for the discussion about the situation on Twitter. But that wasn't the case at all, as some important updates and tweets have been made about the situation since my last video, like us getting more audio leaks from the initial call that Jirard had with Muda and Carl confronting him, as well as statements and apologies from friends who defended Jirard early on in this controversy, and even Jirard's cameo in the recently released indie game Sea of Stars getting patched out. RPGFan.com let us know about this when they tweeted out, due to ongoing developments around the Open Hand Foundation, Jirard the Constructionist will be replaced in a new Sea of Stars patch. Looks like the one thing he couldn't complete was donating charity money in time. They then show a Discord DM from a developer of Sea of Stars where they say, a small patch will be going live on Steam and be submitted to consoles soon to replace the builder NPC in Mirth. We arrived at this decision after carefully monitoring events over the past weeks, and while it is not our place to pass judgment, we do make it a priority to maintain a positive and optimistic space that reflects the spirit of our intentions, be they creative or otherwise. As always, we appreciate your support and trust you to respect our decision while keeping the tone of the conversation in line with the essence of what makes our games and our community what they are. Thank you. Mudahar reacted to this news by finally downloading and playing Sea of Stars on his Steam Deck. Shay Frillis reacts to this entire situation by tweeting out, I have no stake in the Jirard stuff, but worst apology ever is a hilarious thing to read when this is the same year we got the ukulele. Comparing the thumbnail of Carl Jobs' latest video on Completionist, where it says worst apology ever, to the ukulele apology song that we got from Colleen Ballinger earlier this year. Ash responds to this by saying, it's absolutely insane how much Jirard shot his career in the foot. Sea of Stars removing his cameo, no one will collab with him at risk of ruining their own image, on top of suing people rightfully pushing him to donate funds. Dude is just done. Get Lucky comments on the situation by saying, hee hee, it was a bit silly for Jirard's friends to instantly come to his defense. No, actually, that was a pretty normal response. If someone said your IRL friend stole money from a charity, your first thought would be, my friend wouldn't do that. Obviously, he did commit charity fraud, but in my honest opinion, it would be weirder if his friends instantly turned on him. Also, I think they should have kept his cameo in Sea of Stars, because if I played that game 5 years from now and saw a character named Jirard the Constructionist ask for donations, I would be laughing my ass off. Speaking of Jirard's friends who came out to defend him as soon as the allegations dropped, AntDude clarified his stance on Twitter when he posted this Google Doc with the caption, my last statement regarding Jirard. First and foremost, I apologize. I said a lot of things when I shouldn't have. I jumped the gun and handled things in a way I'm not proud of. Throughout this entire event, I understand that I made a lot of statements, came across as wishy-washy or backpedaling, and angered or disappointed a lot of people. I'm not looking to paint myself as the victim. Pray for sympathy, ask for forgiveness, etc. I made my bed and I have to lie in it. But some extra clarification is in order because I continue to see a lot of things thrown my way that need addressing. I'm aware that I already said I was done talking about this topic, and I apologize for going back on that too. I'm hoping I can make this final statement as definitive as I can. This was a highly personal event for me. I may not have any direct ties to the charity organization or personal experience with dementia, and I can only sympathize with those who do have that association to this whole thing, but Jirard is a close friend of mine in this space. Claims of me blindly defending him, thinking he can do no wrong because he's a nice guy, only being defensive as a means to chase clout, defending charity fraud just because of who was at the head of things, it's all ridiculous. And while I still believe malicious intent was never a motivator, things obviously got way out of hand. All my initial statements and defenses were based on what I knew and was aware of at the time. I was not, nor was I ever defending the act of charity fraud. I didn't believe it was taking place to be defended in the first place. Call it denial or being manipulated, I don't know, but that's where I was at. Obviously, charity fraud isn't okay, but I can't fault people for believing I didn't think that way. Truthfully, this situation is deeper and more complex than it appears publicly. That's why I even started making comments in the first place. But in hindsight, because of the depth of the situation, I should have kept my mouth shut. I was merely trying to defend a friend I believed was being wronged. I want to address my attitude throughout my tweets during this experience. All my tweets are still public. I'm not sure why people are insisting I've deleted some. I never have, and I don't plan to. From the beginning, my stance was, let's please try to get the story right, and try to be calm before the response video goes out, especially when the Dextero headline was inaccurate with the information that was available at the time. With my use of the phrase outrageous claims, I should have been much clearer. I was referring to death threats and racism during the initial news breaking, as well as the weeks that followed, which obviously aren't claims. Extremely bad wording on my part. During this whole ordeal, I saw a lot of people saying some really disgusting things. Not to me, but just in general. The truth of the situation absolutely sucks, but so many people spun narratives that were just flat out mean, and were getting under my skin. Yes, it was a smaller subset of the entire group, and it's not addressing the actual issues at hand, but that's just where my mind was at, and I could have worded it better. Truthfully, my initial tweet was a response purely based on emotion, which is why I tried to clarify it in a follow-up, to which people claimed I was backpedaling. Not at all. I'm just a bit of an idiot sometimes, and I tweeted without thinking about it. I was not trying to comment on the initial accusers, and I apologize if this was the thing that made me seem more delusional than anything. He then shows the 3 tweets he was referencing, which I read in previous videos. He then references him saying nothing but love to Jirard's response, and continues to document by saying, "Once again, I was emotionally invested into this, and was just happy Jirard finally got a statement out. I didn't consider the ripple effect this would cause, and I apologize." That's all this really boils down to. I understand people saying I shouldn't have commented at all, but my emotions got the best of me. He then shows a tweet he made where he says, "The holiday ad revenue is too sweet to not pounce on drama," and then continues to document by saying, "Okay, yeah, this was just unnecessarily snarky. The reality is everything that many of us YouTubers do is to chase ad revenue, and it's not a reason to completely disregard the work someone puts into their videos. I admit that in many of my replies I was unnecessarily snarky. Some people were mentioning me with sass and attitude, and I was responding with the same energy. I apologize for that. As for the people I've blocked here on Twitter, or who have had their comments deleted from my YouTube videos, that part I don't regret. I did go back to some people I blocked to unblock them and apologize, but quite frankly, the majority of people that fall into that category were annoying as hell, constantly spamming me while I was asleep, calling me a disgusting human being, or just another YouTuber that can't be trusted. I responded to many people with the intent of having a normal interaction, just to be met with vitriol. It's gross, because it leaves me no opportunity to try to make things right with specific individuals. If I missed any specific thing I did wrong on this, I apologize for that too. I've never made a document like this before, but my ultimate goal here is to try and make amends, and hope you understand where I'm coming from. I'll leave this as my final note. I deeply apologize to anyone I've upset, disappointed, or confused during all of this. Going beyond just being a YouTuber, this is a highly complicated issue for me mentally on a personal level, and I approached it in a way that didn't help anyone. That being said, I still don't plan on deleting tweets. I want them to remain as a pocket of time where I did something I shouldn't have. At this point, I'm not making any more comments on the matter. I just want to go back to uploading content to share my love for video games. Thank you for reading." GamesCage responds to AntDude by saying, "I'll be honest, I spent a lot of time in calls with friends trying to rationalize and defend as much as I could, because just like you, my first instinct with a friend is to bare minimum wait/give benefit of the doubt, but people keep telling me what he did was wrong regardless, but I couldn't process it. But as more info came out, as more things look more and more blatant, at some point I gave in and realized, damn, this shit is really bad. And while I agree, evil was definitely not the intention, I'm sure the act itself is still very damaging to a lot of people. Here if you need me." Cameron Ritz responds to AntDude by saying, "It's unfortunate that you spoke so soon, but I understand where you were coming from. We wanted to see the best in our friends. It's normal to be in denial that a friend could do something wrong. I read the whole message, and I respect you for admitting you made a mistake instead of just avoiding the topic and moving on as if nothing happened." Reese Ghost says, "You were defending a friend you've known for years. You didn't do anything wrong. Honestly, it'd be weird if you were vehemently against him after one video. Complicated situation, especially when you were actually invested in it. In my very important eyes, you were all good, dude." Someone else who was vehemently defending Jirard that I covered in my last video was Bonsai Pop, who has now made a follow-up response to all the criticism he has been getting from his initial Twitter thread, which again, I covered in the last video. This new statement starts out with him saying, "Final thoughts on the Jirard open hand mess. Like it or hate it. Hi everyone. I know I've been openly defending Jirard and that's been irking people. Totally fair. This situation sucks for everyone. Friends, haters, fans, partners, donors, the list goes on. I'd like to assert that I'm not backpedaling. I'm a go with my gut kind of person. People who interact with me know that. It's worked brilliantly. It's also gotten me in trouble. So, while I continue to think, to hope, that I'm correct and this will all come out in the wash, I may have been hasty in my word, or not clear with them. I believe in Jirard. I've spent time with him in person. I've been on a panel with him at PAX. When I was a baby YouTuber in 2014/2015, the TOVG crew were the first people to tell me I was good. TOVG, for those of you who don't know, is Jirard the Completionist channel name, that one video gamer, so the crew would be him and his staff. Anyways, continuing on with the statement, he says that I should keep going, that I could do it. I live in the woods of Massachusetts. This isn't a place where people generally succeed in entertainment, but they gave me the time of day. It meant everything to me. When I got entangled in the Jirard scandal, Jirard gave me counsel when I asked. He told me straight that he supported my initial reporting, but that we went too far with follow-up videos. He was right. I can speak to Jirard's character in this way. He is kind and supportive, but also honest. That's not a character he plays, as has been assumed by his detractors. Unfortunately, this situation isn't black and white, nor do I have insider information other than my experience with TOVG and knowing that they have been consistently airtight when it comes to being above board. When I hosted a charity drive, I chose to have donors directly donate to my charity of choice. The channel also made a donation. That seemed to make the most sense to me. No middleman, no complications. Regardless of accusations, I personally think open hand was a bad idea, even if everything was/is 100% clean. As we've seen, it opens you up for trouble. Charity is difficult. Most major charities, the ones you get asked to donate to at cash registers, are cloudy at best. Where your money is being spent is usually questionable. It took me a year to vet charities before I did my drive. I've also had my fair share of dogpiling I didn't deserve, until I antagonized said dogpilers. Whoops. However, neither I nor anyone else could imagine what Jirard, his family, or his employees are going through. We're talking millions of attacks, threats. This stuff can be really scary. I feel bad for them, but I also feel bad for the donors to the Open Hand Foundation. Whether or not you were misled by that one video gamer, or are being misled now, you were all charitable people who did what they could to help the sick. Alzheimer's runs in my family. I watched my aunt degrade and eventually die from it. A woman who is my family is suffering from dementia right now. You deserve to know what the hell is going on, what went on, what everything means. This has not been fair to you, or the people you were trying to support via Open Hand. However, since this has become a legal situation, what could be said to you no longer can. As we've already seen, any response can be used against the respondee. This will likely not change until the situation is settled in court. Until then, we know nothing for certain, so I will continue to sit and hope that this is a misunderstanding, because a friend is in a horrible situation. I can't apologize for that. I won't. This industry is so nasty. People are always out for themselves. The second they sniff potential trouble, or something that's bad for their brand, they dip. They'll feed you to the sharks. They won't answer your messages. They'll delete all connection with you, take down videos, delete tweets, scrape and scrounge and apologize for ever having a connection to you, even if you haven't been proven guilty yet. Frankly, I think that's pathetic. It's spineless. So no, I'm not going to turn my back on Jirard just yet. Not until he is proven guilty. I've made that mistake before. There's more to this than what we know. I've watched all the relevant videos. I'm up on the situation. I'm not capitalizing. I gain nothing from this other than doing what I hope someone would do for me. To have a little faith. To be a friend in the shittiest time of my life. Not to instantly condemn me because it's safer. I will apologize for being smug and quickly playing the obstinate goalie. And I sympathize 100% with the people who feel wrong, who may have been wrong. And if my faith, my belief in a friend, ends up misplaced, I assure you that I will be crushed. I'm sure some of you are hoping for that. That's unfortunate. Regardless, I'm right beside you all waiting to see how this plays out. I hope others will simply do the same. Perhaps I'm hoping for a different outcome, but I'm not going to add any hate or delete tweets to try and pretend I didn't respond the way I did. That's me. Like it or hate it, I don't pretend. At this point, the damage to Jirard, TOVG, and Open Hand has been done. Hopefully this all turns out square, and he can be vindicated. But until then, we are all in the dark, and that's where we'll stay until this is handled. Nothing we can do. Why flail around at each other? Anyway, that's it, and that's all. Be who you want to see. Jangles responds by showing the part where Bonsai Pop talked about meeting Jirard at PAX, and says, I hate to use the word parasocial, but Jesus fucking Christ, that Bonsai Pop is the direct definition. I've met a ton of YouTubers at different official events, and just because they were nice to the little guy, doesn't mean I know them enough to gauge whether or not they are capable of a crime. David McGreevy responds to Bonsai Pop by saying, really trying to ride that fence. Oof. You are entitled to whatever opinion you want, and clearly you've set your mind on this. But one thing, good guys can do bad things. Being a good guy to you doesn't absolve them of all the bad things they do when you are not around. Sparta responds to Bonsai Pop by saying, this is absolutely spineless and embarrassing. He lied to his audience for years and cared more about his public image than doing the right thing. I could not care less about how you spent time with him in person. It does not erase what he did. C-Swap says, he was nice to me and said my YouTube videos were good, so I'll throw myself on grenades for this person. Dude, you honestly could have just kept shit private and supported him there, but you had to grandstand and make a big thing about it for no reason other than brownie points. Loyal Dingo says, this response is actually embarrassing. Vito says, says, the fact that you can't get the name of the foundation right tells me you had no business commenting on this situation one way or the other. Geek Transformed says, he committed fraud. The sooner you accept it, the better off you'll be. Some more people who previously defended Jirard on Twitter made some new tweets about the situation, like Miss Fuzi, who says, I am no longer going to speak on the charity scandal. I love my friends with all my heart, but also need to accept the world isn't a fantasy where good and evil are so distinct and easily understood. I just want to make people comfy. Consider everything else null and void. Please don't ask me any more questions. I am not involved in that company, nor have I ever been, so I have nothing to say that would help you understand. I'm just a girl on the internet who wants things to be okay. Steve from Good Vibes Gaming quote tweets a Mudahar tweet that I read in the last video and says, when I said we shouldn't collectively rush to judgment, I meant it. But now it seems we know all there is to know. I'm not gonna comment beyond saying I'm just fucking sad. Alex responds by saying, thanks for finally having another statement. I hope John Combs does as well. Appreciate you both. John Combs, who is another host of Good Vibes Gaming, then quote tweets Alex and says, I haven't replies, but I guess they are not very public. What I've learned is not everything needs an input, and I had nothing of value to say. I honestly believe it's blind to support Jirard with what's come out, and would rather leave everything to the court case. So as you can tell, a lot of people who know Jirard thought this whole controversy was completely out of character for him, but there's one person who knows Jirard who says they weren't surprised that this came out, that being Rosanna Pizzino, who tweeted out an old screenshot of an old video she did with Jirard and captions it by saying, someone linked one of my old videos and asked if I'm still friends with Jirard. The answer is no. Haven't spoken in over 10 years. There are many reasons I am not friends with him and his crew anymore. The news about their potential charity fraud is deeply upsetting, but not surprising. In my experience, they will smile to your face and be manipulative and malicious behind your back. They use anyone who is kind enough to support them. Thank you to Carl Jobs for shining a light on this ongoing awful behavior. There's no excuse for taking people's money for 9+ years and not donating it. So because Rosanna seemingly knew that Jirard was a bad person before all of this came out, people started responding to her to fact check which of their favorite gaming YouTubers are secretly bad people. Crazy Clown T responds to Rosanna by saying, are you still friends with Markiplier? She responds, love him. Lindsay D says, what about MatPat? Rosanna responds, love him. C Bastel says, are you still friends with Jordan aka Captain Sparkles? She responds, love him. Steven says, are you still friends with Sorted Food? She responds, love them. And then David says, are you still friends with Cookie Monster? To which she says, yes, I love that monster. Solus and Dread tweets out this clip from an old Completionist video and says, oof, this ages well. I wonder if Jirard / the Completionist will ever come back considering everything the past few days.
I'm sorry to you guys, but I'm not going to apologize for the actions that I took. I'm just going to make it sound like I did and expect all of you to then write angry tweets and Reddit posts and Medium blogs about how my apology was out of touch, so that later on I could delete all my tweet threads, this very own video, and so much more out there. I do have the receipts. I'm not going to show them in this video, because if I do, it makes me look like a better person for not showing you. I'm trying to protect the people involved in the situation, so I'm not going to show the receipts. But I might. It just depends how this apology video goes. Thank you so much for supporting the shows. Thank you so much for accepting this apology video. And if not, go fuck yourself.
Solus and Dread then post a more serious clip with the caption, did Jirard allude to paying Muda and Carl off? New audio recording of the Completionist begging Carl Jobst and Muda to not bring this to light. He knew he was gonna get cancelled, citing attachments to controversies like JonTron and Pro Jared. How does this keep getting worse?
The last thing I want to do is ruin the legacy of my family, of my mom and her memory, especially because this is such a personal thing for the last 25 years of my life. You know, I'm not trying to be like, do you guys want money to help me hide this? It's not what this is at all. I'm just asking from a humanity perspective of like, if I am the target of this, I have 20 mouths to feed. I have sponsors. I have a business. I'm trying to make video games. I'm trying to get out of content creation so I don't have to worry about YouTube anymore and do better things in the world. And I just know, because of my track record of things like G4 exploding, me being friends with JonTron when he was a racist, you know, I've been a part of like, you know, Pro Jared, like pulling one thread about the charity thing is going to upheave my entire life in a way that scares the living crap out of me. And I don't want to go home tonight and tell everyone, hey, there is a gigantic thing coming to claim my career, and you all have to close down and find somewhere else to do. I know this is shitting me to say this. I'm not trying to ask for sympathy or anything, but this kind of stuff, I mean, I've been following your guys' stuff for years. The stuff with Billy Mitchell, Carl, the stuff that you've done, Muda, with tons of content creators over the years. Like, there's no nuance to this. People are going to see this, and they're going to immediately go, that Jirard guy who's been nice to a bunch of people actually isn't very nice overall. Fuck him. Let's get rid of him.
Soulless and Dread then follow up the clip by saying, the majority of the call really highlights how scared Jirard seems to be, and again, it's really sad to listen to, despite his entire focus being on his optics. I am surprised that Carl or Muda, not sure who, waited to release this part of the conversation, but here we are. For those alluding to this being AI generated, it's not. Carl posted it in his Discord. Also, while not directly saying he would pay them, it feels as though he is engineering the conversation that way in a desperate moment, seeing if there's any way out. It's just panic. Lord Oberon responds by saying, Jirard runs charity poorly and Muda and Carl ruin his life over it. Neat. Aaron responds, poorly is the wrong word. Try embezzlement or theft. Lord Oberon responds, there's no proof of that, but it's fun to drum up drama. Mischief responds to the recording by saying, I don't know how there's anyone still defending the completionist. The guy is self-admittedly guilty of everything, and every new bit of information incriminates him further. Ethan Carter says, the fact that he said all this and Muda and Carl made videos exposing it and didn't use this and allowed him to defend himself, and he lied and threatened a lawsuit, proves Jirard is not a good person, contrary to all his YouTube buddies claiming otherwise. PK in the Universe says, I really hope Jirard's employees find someone better to work for. They deserve better than to work for someone like that. Also hilarious that he threw pro Jirard under the bus, who actually brought receipts to prove his innocence. Jirard is cooked. Ace Blaz shows Carl posting the audio we just heard in his Discord, and captions it by saying, holy shit, Carl posted another piece of unreleased audio from him and Muda's Discord call with Jirard, where dude went all out in trying to guilt trip them into dropping this. I was heartbroken before, now I'm outraged. They were going easy on him in their first videos. Gritsit responds to the call by saying, me being friends with Jontron when he was racist, and then a picture of a girl waving a flag that says die. D-Day Cobra says, I haven't really commented on this much, but now he's calling Jontron a racist in a pathetic attempt to virtue signal. He can get fucked. Alex says, ah yes, let's throw Jontron and Jirard under the bus in there too. All he had to say in his apology video was, the money has been donated, and we are creating an SOP so it won't happen again. Thank you to Muda and Carl for bringing this to our attention. Raymona says, if you make this video showing how I lied about where everyone's donations were going, and was pocketing funds and using big names to boost my clout, people are going to realize I'm exactly like the friends I associate with. Let me just throw them under the bus real quick though. Kung Fu Man says, while he's right that people enjoy just seeing it crash, and that the worst of it will happen, and I don't think he alluded to paying them off. I think that's enough for me to hear. The shit about Jontron from him was the biggest last straw. Hilariously, that's really what did it. Ponic Mania says, just imagine you donated money for a good cause, and the host simply wastes it all on paying people off so you won't get called out. The Family Bovine shows that Carl's latest video was sponsored by Empires and Puzzles, and captions it by saying, no matter which side of the spectrum you sit on in the Jirard/completionist debacle, can we all agree that shit like this is scummy as fuck? Just a heads up, I'm not defending anyone here. Jirard isn't innocent, and his accusers claim they are doing this for the betterment of charity, whilst ad revenue and sponsors are littered in each video. It's clear both parties are disingenuous. Muting because people legit dick riding Muda and Carl like their lives depend on it. Enjoy talking amongst yourselves. Nicholas Diorio quote tweets Family Bovine and says, most people crying about Carl's job providing him income are people whose lives are fully funded by playing video games. The entitlement that he should take a massive career risk to investigate allegations of fraud for free is fucking hilarious. Well, I am aware the charity money wasn't donated for a decade. The golf tournament has come into question, and Jirard has lied in his apology. But can you believe Carl took a mobile game sponsorship? Is a really funny cope, especially when he might be served for a second concurrent lawsuit. Gumball Viking responds to Family Bovine by saying, reminder that YouTube is not only his job, but he is currently gathering funds for his lawsuit against Billy Mitchell. The only scummy thing here is that you are trying to make it out like Carl is this emotionless greed hog, except unlike Jirard, his money's going somewhere helpful. Optimus responds to TheFamilyBovine by saying, no lol, I don't think YouTubers getting sponsorships you can voluntarily avoid by clicking twice on your mouse is scummy as fuck. What exactly is the difference between him doing a sponsorship and selling merchandise, or really anything else? This has never been a standard ever. Mischief says, Twitter users when they discover people need to pay their bills and put food on the table to not die. Willie Mac Show says, if you expect people to do a good job, they have to get paid. Reporters, journalists, news anchors all get paid when covering stories. If they had to do it for free, nobody would. This is baby goo goo gaga arguments. Mudahar quote tweets TheFamilyBovine and says, man, you must hate watching the news anytime they cover something serious and an ad plays, right? I wanted to cover a story and money ended up getting donated, lol. Trust me, I'm not trying to be a saint out of this. Clearly we made ad revenue for time spent investigating. Justin Wang responds, so glad I only talk about shit and cum. Carl Jobst also quote tweets TheFamilyBovine and says, I've never claimed I was doing this for the betterment of charity. I've never discussed my motives other than saying I make videos to make money. I've never put myself on any moral high ground. Isn't it convenient that those who have a problem with how I call out charity fraud are also liars themselves? TheFamilyBovine responds, been a huge fan of your content and support you against your lawsuit against Billy Mitchell. I don't judge you for how you call out charity fraud and support your efforts to bring light to the situation. Just the grind to squeeze every dollar from this is a bitter pill to swallow. Carl responds by saying, why are you lying about what I claimed? It's one thing to disagree with something, that's your opinion, but you are a liar, which is something else entirely. TheFamilyBovine responds, I've made myself pretty clear, mate. I don't know what angle you were trying to go from here, nor do I have anything else to add. You have 30 times the following than I do on here. Put that to better use than responding to someone like me. Voltar responds by saying, if you were worried about someone with a larger following than you responding to you, maybe you should just shut the fuck up in the first place? TheFamilyBovine responds, dude, I stopped reading your manic episode 10 tweets ago. Stop shouting into the void, laughing my ass off. Voltar responds, how are you responding to this if you were not reading it? Read a book and tell your mom I'll be over later, peasant. TheFamilyBovine then makes a new tweet showing that Carl and Muda both responded to them and captions it by saying, I never tweet. I'm not a social media guy, yet I'm always open to casual discussion, disagreements, and even trash talk. But the fact that these two come sniffing within hours of each other over my single 500 likes Jirard tweet, it's absurd, chronically online behavior. Regardless of their opinion, you can't have a healthy dialogue when you decide to be critical of their methods, and they come crashing down with their huge audiences. It's a weird suppressive practice that shuts out any criticism. I didn't have sympathy for Jirard before, but I do now. I'm not going to respond or read anything on this thread. It's immediately muted. If they want a proper dialogue, they can just DM me, since they seem to have time on their hands. Otherwise, move on. Shit is cringe. Nicholas Diorio responds by saying, you are such a pathetic crybully. Internet Anarchist says, it's the worst when you tweet a diss and they actually reply to defend themselves. Ugh! Dojangles says, I made terrible takes and got shat on and doubled down, but they are the ones chronically online, not me! That's you right now. Scott Schaefer says, you made an inflammatory post that lots of their followers responded to. It obviously got pushed to them, and so they responded as well. Not weird at all. Willie Mac Show quote tweets Bovine and says, this guy makes a tweet publicly calling out two YouTubers and the ethics of them getting paid while making journalistic content, and then he gets mad when they respond? If you don't want a response, you should have wrote it in a notebook. Optimus responds to Bovine by saying, people who publicly tweet and get sad when people reply to them are the biggest fucking losers ever. It's somehow not terminally online for this guy to spill any retarded opinion he has out for Twitter, but if you happen to reply to him with more followers, you are too online. Carl Jobst then elaborates on the point TheFamilyBovine was making about the sponsorships when he tweets out, for the record, while I did gain subscribers and grow my brand, I ended up losing money by not including a sponsor in my first video. Covering the story cost me money. Those saying otherwise are dumbasses or have an agenda. My videos on speedrun cheaters get just as many views. Dogma responds by saying, the true question is here, do you have a lot of friends who say nice things about you and can vouch that you are a good guy, or even one person who can confirm you are in fact an absolute legend? Carl responds, I have literally dozens of people who can confirm I'm a nice guy. Saigunus shows a screenshot of Carl's video and says, the balls Carl has to call out the way Jirard uses his mother's passing as a shield/leverage, not just to commit charity fraud, but to manipulate your feelings about the situation, it's demonstrably offensive, and one of the most narcissistic, downright evil thing you could do. Poco Snowcone shows a picture of Peanut Butter Gamer, Pro Jared, JonTron, and Jirard on a MagFest panel together, and captions it by saying, JonTron is a racist, Pro Jared cheated, Peanut Butter Gamer hates my Sims, Jirard embezzled donations donations. All of them were bad and we never realized it. Snowflake shows that the YouTuber Defunctland recently announced a charity event he's doing, with comments being concerned about the legitimacy of the event due to what happened recently with Jirard, and captions it by saying, Jirard's specter is now hanging over every charity stream out there. It's safe to say this saga is going to cause a lot of collateral damage. Stagecraft Beast says, Muda, hey, where did that 10 years worth of charity money go? Jirard leaving the bank with 10 years worth of charity money shoved up his ass? Vito says, as of late April of this year, Jirard was bragging about raising 600k to 750k a year for charity. Jirard seems to have greatly enjoyed the good guy reputation that came with charity work, and was happy to exaggerate how much he was raising and donating. He then shows a tweet from Mr. Gablin responding to Jirard, buying all of the Wii U and 3DS games before the eShop closed, by saying, aren't you already donating 21k worth of video games? Preservation is a decent cause, but come on, there's real people suffering out there, and you have the power to help them. I don't mean to poop on the parade, but it just seems wasteful at this point. Jirard responds 5 days later by saying, I raised a combined total of nearly 600k to 750k a year for various charities. Doctors Without Borders, American Heart Association, Dementia Research and Treatment, St. Jude's Children's Hospital. I'm helping people all the time. Help is help, my dude. Everyone's suffering or needing aid every day. I'm only one person using my platform to help as many people as I can. Vito continues his thread by saying, as far as I know, there is no record of Jirard donating to any of the organizations he mentions. He was donating more than $500,000 a year to these charities. Surely he would have brought it up in his video defending himself. Following up, it does seem to be true that he runs some small fundraisers for various causes. Here's a St. Jude fundraiser he ran, which raised 13k. How on earth this adds up to 650k a year is unknown. Vito also tweets out this clip from the voice call with Muda, Carl, and Jirard and says, this clip is wild. Jirard's concern is not about making sure the charity money gets into the right hands. All he cares about is how his precious good guy image will be sullied. He even threatens to quit YouTube if Carl/Muda report on him. Textbook emotional manipulation.
Even if I survive this somehow, even if this is like, people are like, well, whatever, that's how it is. Yeah. It's going to take the passion out of what I do. People aren't going to trust me ever again. I'm not going to trust myself ever again. And I'm just going to walk away from all this. Like, this is like me being like, great, so I'm out. Not just of content creation or being an online personality. I'm just going to stop. I'm just going to disappear and start over and never talk to anyone ever again.
Vito continues by saying, this is such insane narcissistic behavior. It's like when a drunk driver smashes into an old lady, and all they can talk about is how unfair it is that this horrific crash is going to fuck up their own life. Stop worrying about yourself and take responsibility, you sociopath. But my mom died! Now, speaking of that video the Completionist made, buying all of the Wii U and 3DS games off the eShop before it closed down that I mentioned earlier, Drew the Nostalgia Maniac tweets out a screenshot of this video and says, bro peaked and crashed all in the same year. Reese quote tweets him and says, this video was impressive until I realized that you can download every single 3DS game onto my modded 3DS via HShop. Most of the games are already preserved. I lost respect for Jirard after what happened recently. Liam Robertson responds to Drew by saying, nah, hot take, but this was always an utterly pointless endeavor. It's good that some developers got some money, but the people who deserve the credit are those who actually went out of their way to back up the eShop games. Those are the true heroes. Buying them did nothing. Unreal the amount of people who have responded to this, thinking that he saved or preserved these games by downloading them. Other people have already preserved these games and made them available to everyone. Stop giving credit to him for other people's hard work. Frozen Frack responds by saying, holy shit, are we finally allowed to say this? He spent a shit ton of money doing this because the video would probably make a lot of that money back and be super effective advertising his brand. I wasn't impressed for a second. Liam Robertson responds, if I'm being real, I see this as just another manipulation. He knew your average person wouldn't understand that what he did was basically pointless and worth nothing, but the optics of it are good, so that's all that matters. It was a PR stunt that helped nobody but himself. Now that was finally it for the discussion about Jirard on Twitter until Mudahar dropped the entire 48-minute call that he had with Carl and Jirard that was featured in the very first video covering this from them. He captions it by saying, for transparency's sake, sake, both Carl and I agreed to release our entire call given recent threats. Here it is for anyone interested. Listen below. Recent threats mean potential lawsuits. I have no reason to honor anything when I'm being threatened in such a manner. If you want to listen to this call, I will leave it linked in the description below, and you can check it out right now if you want to, because this is the end of the video. There are Twitter responses to the whole call, but it's pretty much saying the same things that people were already saying before the full call released, and this video is already going on for a very long time, so I figured I'd cut it off here, and if there's any very significant responses to this new development, I will be sure to update all of you guys on this channel, so don't forget to subscribe with notifications on if you don't want to miss that. While you're at it, don't forget to leave a like and leave your opinion in the comment section below, and with all that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in another video.